So welcome to all of you once again. Today we have with us Brother C Krishna. We have had the privilege of listening to him previously also. He has conducted studies on many of the Mahatma letters before. We all know him as a very senior and experienced member of Theosophical Society, a chartered accountant by profession, now settled at Hyderabad. He joined the society at a very early age of 16, was the secretary of the Rayalaseema Federation, and is now the national lecturer at the Indian section and also the executive committee member. I welcome Brother C Krishna to begin the study on today's session.
Dear brothers, we will consider letter number 31 of the Barker edition and also try to finish considering the letter 107, which has been given as the scope of my study session today. The reference to the reader's guide, which gives certain details, which are of course physical details. Letter number 31 was written on two sides of the white papers, written on both sides. Maybe we can visualize, some of us who have seen the handwriting, precipitated handwriting, which we find in other books. Maybe we can visualize these letters using these details. Yes, the letter is addressed to Mr. Sinnett, and the letter was posted to his London address. And another detail given by the persons who wrote the reader's guide is that the envelope in which this letter was placed, the handwriting of the address written by someone else, not the master's handwriting, the envelope is addressed, or the address on the envelope is written by somebody else. The handwriting is of somebody else. This is what the detail which is given. Maybe they have gone to the museum and verified all these contents and put it into the reader's guide. Right. It is said Mr. A.P. Sinnett was busy trying to put the book, compile the book, The Occult World, and the contents of the book were actually based on a lot of inputs which Madame Blavatsky has given to him, a lot of experiments which he has done, which he has seen, which was party to it, and then he based his writings based on that interactions. The book says, the reader's guide says, the founders at that point of time were at Bombay, and the letter was dated 26th March 1881. It is said that Master K.H. at that time was living in one of the peaks which was part of Hindu Kush mountain range. So the name of the peak is also given in the letter. And interestingly, the envelope had a postage stamp of French origin. Maybe 35 cents worth of the postal stamp was affixed onto the envelope. So someone, the master's agent perhaps, was stationed maybe in France, he had posted the letter to Mr. Sinnett to his London address. This is how we gather or we surmise. And another interesting point which the authors, George E. Linton and Virginia Hanson, has put it up in this reader's guide is, this is perhaps the only letter A.P. Sinnett received at his London address. The rest of it were elsewhere, most of them from Allahabad or Simla and things like that. Mr. Sinnett had gone to London for vacation. He had gone via Ceylon, and also to work on the possibility of publishing the book the material for which he has collected and compiled the occult world. So Master KH says to Sinet that he is writing the letter from an unknown valley, a valley which has never been visited by any European since the birth of that mountain, range or mountain. So that's what Master has talked about, the range of mountains, Hindu Kush range of mountains. Master says that he received the affectionate homage, meaning the words which Mr. Sinet has sent through his letter, penned by APS to KH. And Master says he's sending the letter from the abodes of eternal snow and purity. White color is also a reference to purity. So he says, I'm sending this letter from eternal snow and purity, meaning the place where Master KH was staying was full of divine, pure influence. Master says the letter is starting from the place where the wisdom reigns to the place where perhaps the abode of vice, because London, France, and other areas, the spiritualists were very active. So he's perhaps referring to that. A place where lots of work is being done or was being done by spiritualists, a place where APS, Senate, had also gone to spend some time with them, trying to find out whether they have some other information through which you could find out certain secrets, certain mystical secrets of the universe, or for that matter, something which they called as mysteries, the phenomena and all the rest of it. So APCNet was always in touch with these spiritualists and trying to understand their view of all this study which they make. So obviously Master is referring to the travel perhaps which Mr. A.P. Senate is doing, which is in a way traveling in two boats. One, the time he is spending with Madame Blavatsky to understand all about occultism, and also trying to find out the secrets of existence as the spiritualists put it up. So he says, Master says that he is trying to travel in two boats or trying to be here and there too. So when he's in that abode, place of stay where he is in touch with spiritualists, so Master says that was a place of wise. So Master says, I cannot be there in that location. And I was there with you in a different form which you have not seen, maybe not tangible, not something which you can feel or see, but I was on different locations. At different locations I was there with you, but at this point, at this juncture, at the place where you are, I cannot be part of that. I cannot be there. But he always says, Master says, A.P. Sinet was not trusting that Master was with him in a different form, which he cannot see, because he wanted to see, he wanted to talk, he wanted to converse, and he wanted to obviously physically see him. At that point of time, perhaps he was not that qualified to see him in person. So he says, Master says, I can't help you. I can't help you in that. So I'm quite sure that I was there with you in thought, so not in form. Master says he can't do anything more to satisfy A.P. Sinet's curiosity. So Master says to Sinet to have patience. Master says to Sinet to have patience. This is there in the letter. So a lot of people whom we know also seek the tangible proofs of masters. They're impatient. Maybe they are not working where they should be really working and lift their consciousness to the consciousness of the masters, but then still seeking the physical, tangible proofs. Maybe this is an indication that one needs patience, one needs to do work after all. So Master KH refers to his new book, which Senate is putting it up, the occult world. Whenever we refer to new book, it means the occult world, and says the contents may be very uplifting, like the Mount Everest. Mount Everest is one of the peaks which has got a lot of significance. So the contents may be as uplifting as that of Mount Everest, as it looks tall and great sight for anybody to see. Meaning a person who studies the book, this new book, might lift himself up to the heights of true wisdom. This is perhaps what he meant by saying it is as tall as Mount Everest. There is so much of literature that is available, that was provided and spread by the spiritualists at that point of time. There was so much of literature that was available, which was produced and spread by the spiritualists. And Master felt that this new book, when it comes out of AP Senate, which is in a way a joint venture between Madam Blavatsky and Senate, will be like a whiff of fresh air, and it will prove to be a redeemer, meaning thereby the contents of the new book of APS will sweep away means will push away and dispel the wrong notions which were spread in the world by the spiritualists. This is what the master has the expectation, what the new book will do. And the new book will also counter all the false ideas and canons which is spread by the spiritualists. More effectively, this new book and its contents will actually redeem the world, meaning the actual truths would be available for everybody to see, and the false notions which have been given by the spiritualists will get the not so important attention. Master says the spiritualists may not accept this work. Spiritualists may not accept this work of APS, this book which is titled The Occult World. They may even reject the contents totally. They may vilify the book. That's what the letter says. They may vilify the book, that is, speak disparagingly or abusively, criticize the book and the contents, so as to bring disrepute to the author and the book, and the value of the book thus will be minimized. Master says at least a dozen well-intentioned, well-meaning readers will go through this book written by Mr. Sinnett. And he has written with a lot of speculation. Speculation here means using the mental faculties, interpreting, seeing, interpreting the whatever he has seen, and the interpretations are put in a way APS has interpreted them, the occult details and secrets. That's why we say we speculate with your mind. There is a term used in masonry which says speculative mason. Speculation is something which you do with the higher faculty of the mind. Right. Master says this new book will be a good book, not a weed. Weed is something which we remove, throw it away when there is a crop which is coming up. So this good book will not be a weed, not a useless book. After all, this book will be a valuable book. Unlike a weed which is picked and thrown away, this book will be a plant or a tree yielding good harvest of fruits of wisdom. This is what Master expects from this book. The next few sentences of this letter, the Master suggests to APS, AP Senate, that sometimes AP Senate has put up certain facts with no conviction in his heart. So this is what he's referring to. Master says to Senate, by taking such a stance, not having conviction and still putting up those ideas or words with no conviction whatsoever, presenting the contents, will expose his shallowness. Will expose his shallowness. And one who is not complete grasp of the facts or possession of the facts, his position will be very obvious that he has not got the whole grasp of things. So Master K says, simply putting up a theory or contents propounded by somebody else or someone else, which APS has tried to put in that book, not with a lot of conviction, but with a lot of belief that perhaps that those words are true. He has not got conviction, but he simply went by his gut feeling, or maybe he had the tremendous regard saying that that could be really truth. But he didn't have conviction. But Master says, unless you're convinced, unless your conviction is there, don't put it up. That would show your shallowness. That's what Master is saying. So APS Senate is not able to put up the contents as absolute facts or absolute truths, as he is lacking in conviction. Here is perhaps an advice to all of us that we cannot repeat the words like parrots, what we see in our literature, without really understanding what it contains. So we need to be convinced when we're using those words, when we're even using a quotation, for example, we should be convinced that that is relevant. So can that person who has no conviction, can he present truth effectively? This is the question. Normally we end up most of the times saying so and so said this. So have we, let us say, have I put these contents and taken these words for study and contemplation? After due contemplation, by dwelling deeply, have I understood the contents of their import totally? When I have used my higher faculties, I can put up these contents as my finding and my truths. Otherwise, it will be just quoting somebody. So Master K says that Sinnett, though not so solid in his observations, when he is presenting such ideas, he's creating doubts in the minds of readers or students, because he is not convinced, he is working without conviction. So when he is presenting those ideas, the ideas will not reach the students with all clarity. So Master says, because Sinnett's observations are not solid and presenting such ideas with no conviction, Sinnett is only managing to create doubts in the minds of readers or students. Master says Sinnett has included all the contents of the book that were personally seen by him. See, all the experiments, all the contents which he has put in the book were something which he was party to when Madame Blavatsky has perhaps demonstrated or talked about or did whatever she had done to see that these truths will be compiled in that book. So these are all the things which he has seen actually shown by HPB to Mr. Sinnett. So if the contents are presented after critical evaluation and after exercising due discrimination, the content should sound and appear as facts and truths. Then this new book, The Occult Word of yours, says Master, will be far more useful than that written by spiritualists. He mentions the name of one Mr. Wallace, Arthur Russell Wallace. So Master says the time is now, the time is ripe, and it is now that if he works hard, if Sinnett works hard, spiritualist publications will take a back seat. When we present right, factual information to the spiritualists, the factual information will quench the thirst of spiritualists, and they will know, they will try to understand the phenomena as per the mystical occult knowledge or occultism, as we may say. Master says that the world is full of latent meanings. Number of people interpret meanings in different way. So there are a lot of meanings which are latent, and all the phenomena of the universe are being understood by different people in different ways. With the aid of occult science, persons can understand and try to be with the truth. There is an expression the master is saying which sounds like a definition. The master using an expression which sounds like a definition. He says reason which is elevated to supersensuous is wisdom. The word has to be understood carefully. Reason which is elevated to supersensuous is wisdom. This is what the master in a way has defined what it means to be the wisdom, the real sense of the term. What we get or derive by using senses is knowledge through senses. So occult science is that which is beyond the sensorial knowledge or sensual knowledge and reason. So it's beyond reason, beyond sensual knowledge, and so the occult science is that which is beyond these two. Master says occult science alone, as occult science alone can provide that key. Master says the occult science alone can provide that key with which one can unlock the mysteries of the universe. We have to use the intuition, not knowledge as tool. Master gives an interesting information about the process through which an adept acquires real knowledge. Master is giving an interesting information about the process in which the adept acquires real knowledge, which is wisdom. An adept who has passed through hardships, who has done real lot of hard work, is rewarded thousandfold. Is rewarded thousandfold. This is what Master has said in the letter. To acquire further knowledge, after he has done that and he has got the reward for which he has worked hard and the hardship is been rewarded. To acquire further knowledge, an adept need not go through the slow process of investigation and comparison of the various objects or subjects. So an adept gets at that stage an instantaneous implicit insight into everything. This is what Master has written. An adept gets at that stage, he doesn't need investigation, he doesn't need comparison to understand anything, objects or subjects, but he gets at that stage an instantaneous implicit insight into everything and into every first fundamental truth. It is said that all fundamental truths are derived from the same unknown single source. But intellectuals think, intelligence, intellectuals think the truth comes from intelligence. Intelligence, intellect may give semblance of truth, but not the truth, not the whole truth. Intuition, which is a faculty of buddhi or the higher realms, grants us the glimpses of truth, and if we are continuing in the path, it takes us to the greater vistas of real nature of truth and wisdom. So this is what Master has said about how they acquire knowledge, and after a stage, they don't have to really investigate and compare. Simply they get everything by without comparison, without investigation. Instantaneous information, knowledge, and wisdom. Master says adepts are the only originating causes, and so an adept sees, feels, and lives with the real source of wisdom, real source, the source of all sources, the source of all fundamental truths. This is what we need to again underline and keep it in our back of our mind. Master says adepts are the only originating causes, and so an adept sees, feels, and lives with the real source, the source of all fundamental truths. That is the universal spiritual essence of Shiva. This is what is said in the letter. Shiva, the creator, the destroyer, and the regenerator. This is what he says. So the source of all fundamental truths is known to the adept, who is the originating cause. and the source is the fundamental source of all truths. That is the universal spiritual essence, which is called Shiva, the creator, the destroyer, and the regenerator. Spiritualists have degraded that noble concept of Shiva to mean ordinary spirit. And Hindus also, they also degraded the principle by anthropomorphic or anthropomorphizing the concept that is actually the real source of truth and which is known by the name Shiva. But Hindus also have degraded that principle by anthropomorphizing the concept. Master says, nature alone can incarnate that spirit. Master says, nature alone can incarnate that spirit, the real spirit, in limitless contemplation, which are actually forms of his thoughts and breath. Master says, nature alone can incarnate the spirit, the real spirit, which is limitless contemplation by the single source, which are actually the terms of his forms of his thought, not terms, forms of his thought and breath. So he is absolute self-consciousness. These are all the words I picked up from the letter, and appears hidden in the physical self or selves. Physical self or selves is there in everyone or everything which is existing on this universe. Master further adds, a true being, this is a very emphatic sentence. Master further adds, a true being which is no being but eternal, which is life universal. Having said that, he is absolute self-consciousness, which appears in the physical self or selves. Master further adds, a true being, which is no being, but eternal, which is life universal. His form is immovable. His form is immovable, white as snow, pure, like that of Kailasa, where he is said to be sitting. And he is sitting above care, above sorrow, above sin, and worldliness. He is not concerned, he is not worldly in his approach. He is sitting above care, above sorrow, above sin, above worldliness. We call a lot of people call him as a mendicant, a person who has no definite place where he can stay and he keeps moving. A sage, we also call him a sage, a healer. Vaidyanatha is another name for Shiva, Vaidyanatha. So we call him mendicant, a sage, a healer, king of kings. Such is the ideal and contents of Yoga Shastra, says the master, which is actual culmination of spiritual wisdom. So this is what he is writing to Mr. Sinnett and mentioning all these facts. And master says the translations have not done justice to the wisdom, because when you translate, maybe yes, the real truth gets watered down. So translations have not done justice to the wisdom or to the philosophy which is pregnant in it. Master says that he doesn't expect Mr. Sinnett that he will understand the above. Phanerosis is the word he has used, meaning visible truths of our teachings. He may not understand, he may not actually understand. This is what the expectation of the master. These are all, he sees and believes. These are all truths which are beyond our senses. So he says, Sinnett may not actually understand these, our teachings. Master says, he hardly writes letters. Master says he hardly writes letters means he doesn't write letters at all, but he gives prominence to the thought, not the subject. So that's why the thought produces those letters and the precipitation takes place and reaches where it has to reach and things like that. So he says he hardly writes letters. He gives prominence to the thought, not to the subject. So this is what Master is saying. Master also talks about his hard work, his arduous work, which he has done over a period of time, over a period of a quarter of a century, he says. He says he labored day and night for a quarter of a century to be part of that invisible group or army, to be a member of their ranks. So to reach there, they had worked continuously, assiduously, arduously for 25 years, quarter of a century, day and night, with one pointed attention and Shraddha. So I have labored hard, says the Master. That army or group of people, they are working with no expectations, working only for the good of humanity. So that army, that invisible group, to be a member of their ranks, Master says he worked very hard for a period of 24 years, day and night. So that's the amount of work one has to put in, and not a casual effort, a constant effort, and one who should understand that it is not a slipshod way of approaching which will lead us to the wisdom, or for that matter to their consciousness. So this is something which we need to keep in mind. And he's talking about the army, the group, the band of masters, the invisible group. That army or group is working with no expectations, working only for the good of humanity. In that process, he says he met Master met Sinnett. So the process of meeting Mr. Sinnett and trying to exchange various letters to Sinnett is all actually working for the humanity. And through these letters, the humanity has to receive whatever they have to receive by way of wisdom and contemplate on that wisdom and try to live that wisdom. So that's the process, because we are working for the humanity. In that process, I met Mr. Sinnett. So AP Sinnett cannot be admitted by any standard to that august group. He cannot be admitted to that group. A lot of people think Master can take me and put me there in that group. It's not possible, he says. It's impossible. They cannot. The person has to earn the arahata or the eligibility to be there. So it is impossible for me to put him up there. Master says the interaction with him, interaction of the Master with Mr. Sinnett, is to excite the better feelings of his. The interaction with Sinnett is to excite the better feelings of his. And the work, if he does well, the work, if he does well, means if the sadhana is good, if the continuous effort is there, that will take him to the truth one day. That will take him to the truth one day. This is what the Master says. Yes, I think there's a lot of message and content for all of us. It is to Sinnett, but then it is also meant to all of us. Then Master says, AP Sinnett, if what you write and what you speak, if it reveals one alphabet of truth, Master says this very, very carefully, and I think we should also note this very carefully. If what you write, maybe I'll put it as what one writes, what one speaks, it will reveal one alphabet of truth. If that writing or speaking will reveal one alphabet of truth, which truth is omniscient or spread everywhere or present everywhere, Master says Sinnett will get his reward. So this is a practical suggestion he tells, or he gives to the Sinnett. If what you write, what you speak, if it reveals one alphabet of truth, which truth is omniscient, present everywhere, Master says Sinnett will get his reward. So this is what Master is saying to Mr. Sinnett. Mr. Sinnett, has met a lot of spiritualists during his stay in London and France, because as we know, he's spending time here, spending time there also, trying to quicken the process of perhaps knowing the unknown. That's perhaps what he was trying to do. But in the process, perhaps he was losing his steps. So Sinnett was meeting all the spiritualists in London, Paris, and that's perhaps what Master said, place of wise. So the place of wisdom, the letter is going to the place of wise. That's what he said. So what is that you have learned, or what do you think about those people, spiritualists, inquires the Master. So this is something which Master is questioning Sinnett. Have you learned anything from them? What do you think of them? What exactly are they contributing to your understanding or information which they're adding it up to whatever existing information you have received? This is what he's saying. And then we come to the postscriptum of the letter. Master writes about how H.P. Blavatsky was not doing well physically, so many vital organs not functioning well. So Master says the sickness of HPB is troubling her and not enabling her to work the way should work. So the efforts are getting affected. The efforts of Madam Blavatsky are getting affected because of her health. This is what Master says. Mr. Alcott also requested the Masters to fix her, means to help her take care of the HPV. Otherwise, H.P. Blavatsky might go the other way. That's the sentence which is there in the letter as far as the health is concerned. So this is how the letter 31 contains so much of valuable information which we need to process very carefully, study very carefully, understand that carefully, and put that as the top idea or the ideas with which we should live, contemplate, and all that. Now, letter number 107 of Barker edition, page 436. This letter was received on 1st March 1881. And again, as for the details available in the guide, the letter of the Masters of the Wisdom, the letter was written on a single sheet of white paper, written in dark blue ink. It is said that the founders were in Bombay. Senates had gone to England via Ceylon, that is presently called Sri Lanka. This letter was sent to Alcott, Henry Steele Alcott, with instructions that the letter should be delivered to Senate without HPB's knowledge. HPB's health was not in good condition, it was in poor condition, hence the arrangement of Master to see that the letter reaches Senate through Mr. Alcott. HSO forwarded to Senate. APS Senate was quite concerned about something related to HPV. APS Senate was quite concerned about something related to HPV. Master KH says, purposefully, this letter has been sent to APS via Henry Steele Alcott and a friend in between. Identity of the friend is not given. The letter that this should reach AP Senate without HPB's knowledge is also there elsewhere in the letters. So Master KH wants Senate to compile the book of the occult world that he is writing, or that he is putting it together, that was to be published from London. Senate's steamer went through Delhi, which is not so big town in compared to Colombo now, but at that point of time, I believe is a very good port. So it went through that place, and in the letter, Master addresses him as my dear ambassador, a person who is representing him. Maybe that's perhaps what he meant, or trying to encourage him with that description. Very clearly, Master says that Mr. Senate is filled with anxiety, which is more than that which is appearing, meaning more than that meets the eye. And he says that the whole anxiety is due to the disposition of HPV towards him, towards Sinnett. Master says he will try to calm her down, and the disposition of HPV will change, and Master would stop her from moving further. Stop at her post. Stop at her post. That's the expression given in the means at the point, starting point, he'll be asked to stop and reconsider, reconcile, and take control of her emotions. This is what Master said to Mr. Sinnett. So he wanted to make HPB realize that she should also feel calm and she should not be troubled by emotion, more so because she is not physically well. And Madam Blavatsky is supposed to be highly sensitive person, and the way she deals with things was well known to Mr. Sinnett also. But Sinnett was perhaps somewhere something went wrong and he was not quite happy the way the relationship at that point of time was going on between him and Madam Blavatsky. Master says it is due to the ill health which is caused by natural causes, which is the reason why HPV is behaving the way she is. It is her condition, the health condition, which is responsible for that. Master says it is also due to the mental anxiety, not only the physical ill health of Madam Blavatsky, it is also due to the mental anxiety which has affected her, and hence in that highly nervous condition, tense condition, she was not useful to the work of the master, says the master. He was not in a position to carry on the instructions of the master in that condition. So maybe yes, we also know anxiety will not help. So calm demeanor, the way in which we set apart time for contemplation, meditation, that should be part of our life right through the day. So that perhaps would pave the way for living the right kind of life. So Master says to Sinnett that the situation prevailing now, because of her ill health, because of her mental anxiety, she has become less useful and she has become very emotional, very emotional. That's what the master says. And he gives an example, like electricity, like electricity is passing through a telephone wire, telegraphic wire. That's how she is so tense and so emotional and so disturbed she was. This is what the master tries to explain to Sinnett and ask him to bear and be patient. That's perhaps the message, underlying message there. So master says these words, this communication, which is meant to you, is reaching through a friend to HSO and Steele Alcott, and this letter will be forwarded to you by Alcott. And HPV will not know that such a communication from me is taking place through Mr. Alcott to you. It's without her knowledge. So this gentleman should not say, without you also I got a letter. So that's perhaps the reason why he's saying it has been said very clearly that she doesn't know that this letter has been sent. It has been sent through Alcott. So he should not mention this again when better times come and things like that. Mr. A.P. Sinnett was going to London, and master says, discuss with our friends. Do discuss with our friends, meaning people who are connected to the Theosophical Society, who are like-minded. In the Theosophical Society, you may have people who believe the same principles. And return not only with a good book, which is the occult world, but also come back with a good plan and come back with clarity in your mind. So clarity as to what is relevant, what is more important, whether spiritualism should form part of his further travels, or it should be occultism as taught to him by Madame Blavatsky should be the real course of travel. So this is something which he has to develop clarity in his mind. Master wants Mr. Sinnett to encourage those who are working for the at Delhi for the educating people in the field of education. So Master wants Senate to encourage those who are working at Delhi for spreading the right kind of education. So this is something which Master asked Senate to do. Use your good officers, encourage them, encourage with good words which will come from your heart, and helpful words which would be of great help, and will enable those people who are working in the field of education to work more with perseverance. So he wanted them, Master wanted Senate to help those people who are working in the field of education. So encourage them, he said. Master says also to APS that he should send a wire, a telegram to one Mr. Nicholas Dias, an official in the police department, saying APS himself with another person who is the member of the Council of TS, Theosophical Society, obviously meaning HPB, or arriving at Delhi. Master says he will make HPB also give a similar information to another person. That another person is in italics. You do not know who that another person is. No reference of that is there in the reader's guide also. As you are traveling, he says to Mr. Sinnett, as you are traveling, think good and be positive about HPV. So there are a lot of misgivings, the mistrust which is happening between, or which was existing between Blavatsky and Sinnett. And so Master says, as you are traveling, think good and be positive about H.P. Blavatsky, and says, Master says, HPB is a true friend of yours at any point of time. So HPB, you think maybe she is not a good friend, but she is going to be your true friend all through. This is what Master says in this letter number 107. So we have covered, I thought maybe I will not be able to cover both the letters, but then I'm lucky that I could drop certain ideas which are contents which are not perhaps that relevant or important. So I 107 is more of a not so important a letter, except saying that you be very clear in what you want to do, how you want to produce the book, and how you should encourage people and things like that. So, but one important thing which you have to remember is this letter 107 went without the knowledge of Madame Blavatsky, directly through Alcott to Mr. A.P. Sinnett. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, brother, for this detailed study of these two letters. Just to clarify to all, Mahatma letter number 107, it corresponds to the chronological letter number 16. And Mahatma letter number 31, which was taken earlier, it corresponds to chronological letter number 17. So before we proceed for discussion, I invite Sister Meenakshi ji to give us the translation in Hindi.
Namaste. Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother Krishna ji. आज हम लेटर नंबर 16 और 17 ले रहे हैं। मार्च 1881 में सीनेट लंदन के लिए रवाना हुए, जहां उनकी पहली किताब द ऑकल्ट वर्ल्ड छपने वाली थी। इंग्लैंड जाते समय गाले, यानी श्रीलंका में गाले है, वहां यह पत्र HPB के द्वारा उन्हें नहीं मिलता है, बल्कि कर्नल ऑलकॉट के द्वारा मिलता है। लेटर नंबर 16, यह पत्र मास्टर KH AP सीनेट को लिखते हैं, मार्च 1, 1881 में। सीनेट HPB के बारे में चिंतित रहते हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं, आपके मन में छिपी चिंता को शांत करने के लिए और जिसे आपने व्यक्त किया उससे भी अधिक वह चिंता गहरी है। मैं अपने अत्यधिक संवेदनशील, कभी कभी नासमझ ऐसी मेरी वृद्ध मित्र HPB को शांत करने का पूरा प्रयास करूंगा और वे जहां हैं वहीं पर रोकूंगा। प्राकृतिक कारणों से बीमार स्वास्थ्य और मानसिक चिंता ने उन्हें अत्यधिक अस्वस्थ कर दिया है और अफसोस कि हमारे लिए अपनी उपयोगिता को क्षीण कर दिया। पिछले 2 सप्ताहों से वह हमारे लिए अनुपयोगी है और उनकी भावनाएं टेलीग्राफ के वायर में बिजली की तरह नसों में फैल गई है। सब कुछ उथल पुथल है। यह कुछ पंक्तियां एक मित्र के द्वारा ओलकॉट को भेज रहा हूं ताकि एचपीबी के जाने बगैर भेजा जा सके। यूरोप के हमारे मित्रों से आप खुशी से स्वच्छंदता से परामर्श करें और हाथ में एक उत्तम किताब और दिमाग में अच्छी योजना को लेकर वापस आए, ऐसा मास्टर कहते हैं। गाले के निष्ठावान बंधुओं को उनके शिक्षा कार्य में दृढ़ता रखने को प्रोत्साहित करें। आपके स्तुतिपूर्ण शब्दों से उनमें जोश आएगा। गाले के पुलिस इंस्पेक्टर निकोलस डायस को यह टेलीग्राफ करें कि आप जो थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी के जनरल काउंसिल के मेंबर हैं, गाले में पधार रहे हैं अपने जहाज का नाम और तारीख देकर, और मैं एचपीबी को दूसरे व्यक्ति के साथ भी ऐसा करने के लिए कहूंगा। आपके प्रवास के समय अपने सच्चे मित्र यानी एचपीबी को के बारे में सोचे, ऐसा मास्टर सीनेट से कहते हैं। अगला पत्र लेटर नंबर 17। यह पत्र मास्टर के एपी सीनेट को लिखते हैं 26 मार्च 1881 में, जो उन्हें लंदन में मिलता है, और यह पत्र टेरिचमेर इस स्थान से उन्हें जाता है। मास्टर कहते हैं, आपका मित्र यह पत्र जहां से भेज रहा है वह जगह टेरिचमेर की खड़ी चट्टानों और हिम नदियों के बीच एक अज्ञात घाटी की गहराई से है। एक ऐसी घाटी जिसे धरती माता से उगम होने के बाद कभी किसी यूरोपीय व्यक्ति ने कदम नहीं रखी। यही मुझे आपका स्नेह भरा पत्र मिला और यही उनके गर्मी का अवकाश बिताने का इरादा है। एक पत्र जो असीम बर्फ और शुद्धतम पवित्रतम स्थान से भेजा गया और विकृति भरी दुनिया में प्राप्त होगा। क्या मैं ऐसे स्थानों में आपके साथ रह सकता हूँ? शायद यह एपिसिनेट मास्टर से कहना चाहते हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं, नहीं, लेकिन मैं आपके साथ कई अलग अलग समयों पर कहीं और केवल विचारों में था, न तो सूक्ष्म रूप में और न ही किसी अन्य मूर्त रूप में था। आप जानते हैं कि आपके मामले में मुझे किन रुकावटों का सामना करना पड़ता है और आपको धैर्य रखना चाहिए। आपकी आने वाली किताब द ऑकल्ट वर्ल्ड जो छोटी सी है, वह एक छोटा सा रत्न है और एक दिन आपकी शिमला की पहाड़ियों से माउंट एवरेस्ट की तरह ऊंची उड़ान भरेगा। यह निस्संदेह उपयुक्त साबित होगा, उद्धारक साबित होगा। आगे मास्टर कहते हैं, यह जगत उन विशिष्ट तत्वों का अस्तित्व है। यह उन अप्रकट अर्थों और गहरे उद्देश्यों से व्याप्त है जो ब्रह्मांड की सभी घटना और गूढ़ विज्ञान का आधारभूत है। अर्थात अतीन्द्रिय प्रज्ञान तक बढ़ने का यही कारण है। केवल प्रज्ञान ही बुद्धि के लिए उनके अनावरण की कुंजी प्रदान कर सकता है। मेरा विश्वास करें, एक सिद्ध पुरुष के जीवन काल में ऐसा क्षण आता है जब वे जिन कठिनाइयों से गुजरे थे उसके 1000 गुना पुरस्कृत होते हैं। अधिक ज्ञान प्राप्त करने के लिए उन्हें विभिन्न विषयों का बारीकी से और धीमी प्रक्रिया से जांच और तुलना करने से गुजरना नहीं पड़ता, बल्कि उन्हें हर प्रथम सत्य में तत्काल अंतर्निहित अंतर्दृष्टि प्रदान की जाती। बुद्धिजीवी या संदेहवादियों का मानना है कि सभी मूलभूत सत्यों को केवल बुद्धिमत्ता द्वारा ही प्राप्त किया जा सकता है और वे ही उसके कारण करता है। सिद्ध पुरुष इस समझ से ऊपर उठ चुके हैं। वे निरंतर सभी मूलभूत सत्यों के मुख्य स्रोत में देखते हैं अनुभव करते हैं और जीते हैं, जो कि जगत चेतना, विश्व चैतन्य शक्ति, शिव, सृष्टि के निर्माता, प्रलय करता और पालन करता है। जैसे कि आज के पाश्चात्य अध्यात्मवादियों ने स्पिरिट यानी आत्मा का निरादर किया है, उसी तरह हिंदुओं ने प्रकृति का उसकी मानव रूपी धारणाओं से यानी मानवीकरण करके निरादर किया। केवल प्रकृति ही असीम चिंतन के शिवात्मा को अवतरित कर सकती है। जड़त्व से संपूर्णतः अचेतन समाधि अवस्था में लीन, अंतरतम की गहराई में डूबे, जो कि कोई अस्तित्व नहीं पर अनंत विश्व चेतना है। उनका संपूर्ण आकार कैलाश में जहां वे विराजमान है, उसकी अनगिनत बर्फीली शिखरों की तरह अचल और शुभ्र है, जो अविचल है, दुख, पाप और सांसारिकता से परे है, नश्वरता से परे है। एक भिक्षु, एक ऋषि, आरोग्यदायी, राजाओं के राजा, योगियों के योगी है। ऐसे वे दिव्य ज्ञान से परिपूर्ण योग शास्त्र के आदर्श शिव है। ओ मैक्स म्यूलर और मोनियर विलियम्स जैसे लोगों, आपने हमारे तत्वज्ञान के साथ क्या किया? मानवता के कल्याण के प्रति हमारा कर्तव्य है। इस समझ से अदृश्य रूप में सदैव कार्यरत रहने वाले श्वेत ऋषि संघ में अपनी जगह कायम करने के लिए जो कोई पुरस्कार नहीं दिलाता, मैंने एक चौथाई दशक से अधिक दिन रात कठिन परिश्रम किए हैं और उसी दौरान आप मिले हैं। आपका ध्यान इस एकमेव सत्य की ओर आकर्षित करने की कोशिश की, जिससे आपकी जिज्ञासा बढ़ी। आप विश्वास योग्य और सच्चे साबित हुए और आपने अपना सर्वश्रेष्ठ प्रदर्शन किया। यदि आपके प्रयास द्वारा सत्य, जो एक समय सर्वव्यापक था, उसका एक अंश भी दुनिया को सिखा सके, तब आपको पुरस्कार जरूर मिलेगा। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for that beautiful translation. I now request anybody who would like to discuss something or add something on the letter to please unmute and speak. In this letter number 16, which was Mahatma letter number 107, I just want to add the background of this letter. In this letter, Mahatma KH mentions to Senate that he will use his best endeavors to calm our highly sensitive, not always sensible old friend. He's referring to HPB, that we know she was suffering from ill health and she was nervous, and often due to that mental anxiety. So Mahatma ji says that he will calm her anxiety. The background of this letter is such, it is given in old diary leaves that Colonel Olcott, he had been asked to proceed to Ceylon and raise the funding to educate those Buddhist boys and girls. And this was conveyed to him by HPB. She said that he had the full backing of the White Lodge. It was approved by the Mahatmas. And later HPB asked Colonel Olcott to stay back and help her with the writing of the Theosophist. So Colonel Olcott thought it was better to proceed to Ceylon rather than staying back. And this was the reason that there was a fallout between HPB and Colonel Olcott. And she was very, very annoyed at that time. And perhaps that was the time when even Senate was traveling. And so this all had its repercussions, which made Senate also anxious. And that is the reason Mahatma ji says that he will do his best to calm her down. So this was just a little background on the situation which prevailed at that time. I thought I will let you know. Brother Krishna ji, if you have anything more to add, please let us know. Please, there. Anybody would like to raise a question? Okay. So if we have no further discussion on these two letters, then we will close the meeting for today. Yes, Vimalji, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I want to ask a question regarding the description of Shiva, which is mentioned in letter number 17.
Yes.
So if anybody could throw light on in the occult hierarchy, is there any term given for Shiva, like, adept or arhat, or is he not in that occult hierarchy? Does he work alone, unlike the other people in that occult hierarchy who work in teams and groups? Does Shiva work alone? Does anybody know this detail?
Krishna
I would like
ji,
to. I like
yes.
to comment on that one. This is what I've been telling a lot of my friends and people involved in Theosophical Society. We say Satyam, Sivam, Sundaram. The word Sivam is referring to Shiva, which means essence, goodness. So if you have the essence of the reality, that's the real beauty. The three words make the reality of the essence is the real beauty, right? And the Satchit Anand is that when you are aware of the truth, there is only bliss. So Master Kutumi has written it that we should not treat Shiva as an anthropomorphic god, that he has got a moon on his head and a snake on his neck and so forth. This is what all the Hindus are sticking, that they believe that that's the truth, that he exists in Himalayas and alone, and descriptions given that he doesn't talk to anybody and he is alone and he doesn't care about anything else, but he directs the whole world, whole universe from there, which is the wrong understanding of every Hindus as well. This is why it is mentioned in that letter number 17. So it's the essence of nature. That's what is already mentioned. That means Shiva. The essence of nature is Shiva, not anthropomorphic form.
Very nicely explained, Brother Sampatji. Krishna ji, would you like to add on that?
Yeah, it is Sindhe speaking.
Namaste, sir. Boliye.
Namaste. A very nice Sampatji has told. It is true. After seventh initiation, they will be given some job. That is what I want to make it clear to Vimalji. So after seventh initiations, they were given job of taking care of the whole divine plan. And one is the creator, another is the sustainer, and third is the destroyer. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha, like this. And this is what we study in our tradition. But the same work is given to these seventh initiated adepts and or say masters or whatever it is in a hierarchy. And one is Bodhisattva, who is the sustainer, and one is the Manu, who is the creator, and Mahachohan is the another state. And that Mahachohan, all this looks like a Shiva, and he is the both regenerator and destroyer. So these are the hierarchy steps. So in that sense, Mahachohan is a Shiva. In this we can understand. But these are seventh initiated adepts. So eighth will be the Buddha, ninth will be the Lord, like this. There are many hierarchies. If you study Masters and the Path, there you can get this one.
I just want to, I know it will be very confusing for people when you put Mahachohan as a Shiva.
Mahachohan is a state. Like
If you
Pratyek
put him as a
Buddha.
Shiva, then
Ah.
the Buddha is even higher than Shiva in the
Yeah.
hierarchy.
Because Buddha is higher than that. Because these are the hierarchies works. That is, work is allotted. They are taking that responsibility.
Yeah.
And if you have taken that responsibility of regeneration, then that is called a Shiva. Shiva's work is regeneration or destroying.
So he is getting confused with the levels. Actually, it is not the Shiva. He is not the Shiva, but the functions of the Shiva at a lower level is being performed by Mahachavan. What he means, I suppose.
Yes, Gautam.
He was getting confused. He is not Shiva, but the functions which are by Shiva are performed by Mahachavan. Similarly, the functions of the Vishnu done at a higher level are performed by Jagat Guru. And similarly, the functions of the Brahma at higher level are performed at the lower level by the Manu.
Correct.
And certainly, our Buddha is higher state, and higher than Buddha is the Lord Sanat Kumar, and above that are these responsibilities of Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, etc. And above that is the Brahma himself. So the further stages of evolution, and perhaps in each one they have to live for the crores of years.
My understanding of Vishnu is the word translated in Sanskrit. Vishnu means that which pervades everywhere. That is, present everywhere. That's why we call it omnipresent. And Brahma means expansion. It carries on expanding. There is no end to that expansion. So our learning and everything is always going to be outstanding, remaining and remaining. We have to continue. There's no end to it, to our learning. So we have to be a student for eternally as a student.
Right.
Only when you become self-realized, then you will know the answer. It's impossible to describe in words.
Master himself
Brahma,
said
Vishnu, and Shiva. It's not possible to describe them.
Correct.
We cannot equate him to a personality. Master himself said it's a concept.
Yeah.
We have brought it down and he said, this is how he looks, this is how he looks. It's a concept. That's what the master says. It's nothing to do with this hierarchy, much beyond all that. It's a concept. Self-consciousness, the consciousness which is spread everywhere. So it's very clear. Master has said it so clearly. We are trying to go around and superimpose the knowledge which we have gathered from the books. No, that's not the thing. Master himself says it's a concept. So we follow that. It's not a personality. It's not part of hierarchy. It's not anything. It's a concept much above all that. So kindly go through the letter carefully. You will get the clue there itself.
Very true. One thing we need to remember is that whatever is happening in the spiritual world, the lower world reflects it. So in that sense, we can consider those functions reflected in the hierarchy of adepts, as we know. But here, as it is said in the letter, Shiva is the ultimate universal spiritual essence. It is clearly mentioned in that.
As above, so below is the maxim which we follow.
True.
As above, so below. So everything which is there also has a reflection down below. And that's what Shankaracharya said, this is Maya, that's the real. So all these things are, we're getting into more splitting of hairs. But as above, so below is true, absolutely true.
Right. So thank you all very much for this very spirited discussion. I hope it clarifies our concepts and gives us the incentive to study more deeply. Thank you, Gautam ji. Thank you, Shinde sir, Sampath ji, Vimal ji. Thank you all. And thank you to all the participants for being here today. So with this, we will bring our session to a close.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarvesham Swastirabhavatu Sarvesham Shantirabhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Lokaha Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om
Om
Shanti Shanti. Thank you all for coming. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Sita.
Love, peace, harmony, abundance to all.
Love, peace,
Love, peace,
harmony,
harmony,
abundance.
abundance.